We'd like the two clusters, so adaptive skins, including all the participants. You can use both stairs and Tristram to come on stage. So we'll have a big gathering of people. And yeah, I think we'll just start taking questions from the audience. So whoever has a question, please raise your hand. There's two roaming mics. Hello? Yeah, it should be working.
Hello. Ricardo, Danae, please, come here.
Hi. I had a little question for the Catalan Vault group. First of all, fantastic cluster, actually, amazing work, I think. Really great how you use digital techniques and traditional techniques together. It reminded me, the technique that you used reminded me of something that I saw a couple of years ago. It was actually people constructing Formula One cars or tubs of Formula One cars in carbon fiber. And they were actually traditional laying up carbon fiber guided by laser lines right in the room. I thought, oh, that's fantastic. I see it here now as well, what you're doing. And I'm really, you kind of see architects in academic institutions and all that trying out new ways of constructing, right? But often you kind of wonder, well, how is it going to scale up? But somehow I see in your approach, I've got the feeling it actually could scale up quite easily. I think you could almost go to a contractor with this idea and say, well, let's try something out. So do you think yourself you could scale it up? And how would you do that?
We need a project. Anyone? Any contractor? Definitely we need a project, and because this has been done as a research, as free time research, I would say that. We have no return on this yet, but the main topic here is that we were trying to have a workflow that could work all around, in almost any environment, right? And basically all you need to do is just make the marker larger, right? So instead of an A1, if you could have an A0, that will make it. You will keep enough precision for it. But I don't know. We need a project, right? We are working on that.
This works on a real scale, so it's not a problem. We've built things like this in real life, so not this complex, not these kind of strange forms, but it works. So we need a project. That's the idea.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Well, would you change the technology slightly as well? Because you've got the guy standing next to the guy with the bricklayer, so you see it in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. We see that the Kinect or any similar sensor will make it easier, of course. Yes, instead of you pointing at some device, it would be the system looking at you, telling you where you are. Right.
I want just to say one thing. I mean, I decided to join this workshop because it was a perfect mixing between an old construction techniques that allows formworks with digital. Most of the things that we see in digital construction, when we reach the one-to-one scales, it's with the formworks. The example that you said about carbon fiber laying with laser, yes, it's a placement, but on a mold. The beautiful example that we've seen yesterday about Saha construction of the concrete in the swimming pool, it was all about formwork construction. I mean, you need almost the same quantity of material that have to be milled out, then constructing fiberglass formwork, and then pour concrete. So at the end, what they end up when they reach the one-to-one scale is that reduce the amount of complexity to 1, 2, 3, 4 components. Nothing more can be achieved. With these construction techniques, it's perfect because almost you can build every kind of shape, one different to the other, so have a huge potential.
Great.
More questions?
Thank you. Is that good? Other questions?
Anyone else? Going once?
There's one at the front here.
A question for Tristram and the clusters as well is, how does the thing constructing with uncertainty come into each of your work, and how have you found that involved over the last few days.
Well, I guess I was trying to address it from the point of view as to which bits of decision making are not best done, but which bits were done, in the definitive. I see it as definitive virtual world, and which bits were done in the more fuzzy, subjective, uncertain real world. So that was the way I approached it. But I think that the cluster's a better place to give a proper answer.
Well, from our point of view, the adaptability is in being able to change form in a building, not just from a cosmetic sort of skin deep point of view, but from a shape point of view. Can we actually scale a building down, maybe even reduce the amount of energy and air to heat within it? Can you respond? Can a skin, even if it's just a skin, be structurally, tectonically modified in its form and even topology. So that's what we're trying to prove in our cluster. There's a lot of work to be done yet, because although we are now using structural skins in more and more projects, like monocoque construction and stress, and timber stress skins, or how do we make these movable? How do we make these adaptable? And the purpose of the cluster was really to test that.
Yeah, I was going to say that also it's a question of when is that uncertainty being addressed? So is it during the design phase or the assembly phase or in the actual use of the structural systems that we were creating? So you can't really have it something adaptable throughout its use. At some point you have to say, right, this is where it sort of stops. This is the moment where we've made a decision. And so there were some interesting questions about when that uncertainty is actually being addressed.
And for us, it was kind of different. Those walls were built on top or inside that perfect 2 by 2 meters square. But when you try to build these walls in pre-existing buildings, unsealed buildings, you are never going to get a perfect shape to start with. So, and you might want to go there and scan it with a 3D scanner and then just go back to your laptop and adapt the shape to it. But you cannot take that scanner maybe to anywhere in Africa or in India, right? So that was one sort of uncertainty for us. And the other one is about the structure, because it's easy to model a concrete shell, but it's hard to predetermine the way a structure like this is going to behave because of the nature of the construction system itself.
I think we're struggling for time a little bit, so I think we have time for one more question from the audience.
Yeah, this one's to Tristan. You mentioned the digital divide that you saw, and I've seen that too, between the young and the old, or the thinkers and the people that pay for it type thing. Do you have any suggestions, or you see any way to start trying to close that divide a little bit?
Unfortunately, I probably see the opposite at the moment, which is a worry, because the digital divide is going to happen not just, it's not just between those who are in the digital world and those not in the digital world, but even within the digital world, as we develop more and more tools and techniques, there are going to be those that can do it and those that can't. So, there are going to be people who can use Revit and not use Kangaroo. They're going, and we're going to see, I think, this whole thing getting worse. But it's also an inverted view of traditional hierarchical decision making. Okay, so the ultimate problem to me seems to be that those in the positions of power and authority in making decisions are have the least understanding of the basis on which they're making their decisions, as more and more of what we're doing is in the digital world. So I'm afraid I'm not here with any offers of how we're going to fix it. I'm here actually considerably worried, about the need to address it, but without any real solutions apart from much more talking and understanding. It's not totally different to a lack of emotional intelligence, if you like. It means that those who don't have digital understanding still have to have sympathy, you know, at the very least with the digital world and what may or may not be being done there, and not antipathy to it, you know, and vice versa. That would be a starting point.
I just want to add a positive note on the other hand. You know, I was with one of the main developers the other day, here in London, showing him a small art installation which was using Kinect to sort of animate a sculpture within the building that we were designing for him. And he was absolutely, caught by this, by the fact that you could make this, animate this, change this, in time, even when you reconfigure it as, if he was to move it somewhere else. So I think, even the decision makers, hopefully, can be sort of moved and convinced that certain, experiments that are done, in forums like this can be taken up into technologies which are incorporated within more mainstream building construction projects.
All right, well, thank you for your responses. Please join me in thanking Tristram and the clusters for their presentations.